All right, everyone, I want to get us kicked off officially. My name is Mariska Morse. I am the president of the American Marketing Association New Orleans chapter. And we are just thrilled today to have this important conversation about publishing, self-publishing for business growth. And Ashley Martin is our esteemed speaker today, who we'll be introducing shortly. But always a few little housekeeping items that are important to cover, like right now, you are in this sort of webinar format, so you can type questions into the Q&A box. We're going to keep you muted, but there'll definitely be times that we take you off mute for any kind of conversation or questions. If you want to be taken off mute, you can also put that in the chat box. We want to make this as interactive as possible. So definitely, please engage, please ask questions. We keep our webinars informal because this is lunchtime and we want everyone to have fun and learn. So again, welcome. I want to mention, if you're not familiar with AMA NOLA, that we really are an integral resource for the marketing community across New Orleans. But marketing is broad because in my perspective, everyone does marketing, no matter what function you're a part of. It's sort of like everyone is selling, and selling is part of marketing. So it really doesn't matter what your functional area is, you can benefit from the content that AMA NOLA produces. And so we're so glad you're here today, but we're all about connecting, learning, and advancing. We also feel that it's important to showcase the incredible talent across our city. There are really amazing professionals, and you can meet these professionals by being a part of AMA. It's also important that we talk about the talent, the pipeline of talent that is in our city, the connection with faculty and students at local universities. We really want this student talent to stay in our cities, which is why having them a part of our chapter is important, as well as supporting our small businesses and nonprofits. Most importantly, as a chapter, we like to have fun. So again, we're really glad you're here today. What's coming? The marketing meetups have been a huge hit. If you haven't been to one yet, drop in on May 11th or June 8th. Sometimes they're live and sometimes they're online, but basically the objective is to have no agenda. There's almost no objective. That's the point. It's professionals getting together and connecting and just talking shop, asking questions, exchanging ideas, having that sort of expanded opportunity, having the expanded network it's a wonderful way to sort of connect with each other. So highly encourage that. And then our next speaker event is Wednesday, May 18th. No matter what you call it, Facebook is changing. Get it? If you don't get it, then all the more reason for you to come on May 18th. We already have these three really cool speakers lined up from Online Optimism, Auctioner, New Orleans & Co. So that's what's coming. If you've missed some of our events, I just want you to know, like already we've had Festivals Forever, where we had the marketing leaders from all of our cool festivals talk about their ups and downs of the past years. We had a thing on tech security. We had the VP of marketing across the different beer companies, Cheers for Beers. We did a whole event at Tulane about Super Bowl ads and had students involved. And most recently, we had past presidents of AMA NOLA talk about spring cleaning your marketing plan. So I just wanted to give you that context because that's the level of programming that we are putting on. And a huge thanks to the board, the AMA NOLA board, who puts in so much time and effort on a volunteer basis to promote these events, to recruit speakers, to really run this organization. So I'm very thankful to them. If you haven't already figured out why you should join American Marketing Association New Orleans, here's a nice laundry list, everything from discounts to conferences to magazines. And of course, there's all kinds of online training, and the memberships are really affordable, $149 a year for professionals and only $29 a year for students. So please consider joining if you're not already a member. All right, I am going to hand it over to my colleague, Sharik Richardson, who is on the AMA NOLA board and heads up our diversity area, but is also the one that was kind enough to introduce us to Ashley Martin. So I want to hand it to you, Sharik, to introduce Ashley.
Thanks, Mariska, and hello to everyone. I am definitely pleased to introduce Ashley Martin. I've had the pleasure of hearing her speak about how to build a business through self-publishing. And so I'm very excited to hear what she has to say and just to hear it again, because it's something that you really, if you have an aspiration of ever taking all of your knowledge, and like Mariska said, encapsulating that into a book, and becoming an expert in your niche, this is a powerful way to do that. So I'm very pleased to introduce Ashley M. Martin. As you can see here, she is the principal consultant of Leadership Lady, which is a training and development company that focuses on helping people and organizations close their leadership and soft skills gaps to improve operational efficiency. So we're very pleased to have her here with us. So I hope you all have pen and paper and pads. This, you can take good notes, and this will be recorded, but still just taking good notes and asking questions. That will help this to be a very fruitful and productive session. And I'm going to turn it over to Ashley.
All right, Ashley, I'll stop my share and we can transfer over to your slides.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. And I hope everyone is doing fabulous and wonderful and all that good stuff. Staying hydrated. You may frequently see me grab this. I just believe in staying hydrated, especially where we are. And the weather is flopping back and forth, and let's just stay healthy and hydrated. But it's a pleasure and honor to be here with you all today. Thank you, Mariska. Thank you, Sharik. And of course, the AMA NOLA chapter and attendees for showing up today. I hope that you will gain a lot of information that will help you move forward in your self-publishing journey, in your business growth, perhaps in just your general knowledge, but I hope that you will have gained at least something that you can actually apply and move forward and run with. And so I like to have a little bit of fun, but also want to know who's in the room. So we're going to do a quick activity called True of Me. I'm going to share a few statements, and if it's true for you, just simply say yes, or just drop one of your favorite emojis in the chat box. And so we'll start like this. I love chocolate. So if that's true of you, put something in the chat. Thumbs up or yes. It doesn't matter what flavor. You need milk chocolate, dark chocolate, white chocolate, cookies and cream, but we're all the chocolate lovers. See, we have some here: Haley, Sharik, Adrian, Robert, Becca. Good to see you all. Good to see you all. It's the chocolate crew, chocolate lovers crew. Chillin says absolutely. And good to see you, Christine, as well. All right, next statement. I am due for a vacation. You're due for a vacay. If that's true of you, let me know in the chat. And if you want to share where you want to go, please tell us. I'm with you. I'm with all of these goers. Nope, Adrian beat us to the punch. You all just got back. Awesome, Robert. Have lots of fun. Wonderful place Disney World is. Love it. All right, and our final one. If this is true for you, please let us know. I like dogs or puppies. Do you have a pet? Dogs, dogs. Oh, somebody's allergic. Okay, I don't love the emoji there. So I see we have a cat lover as well. Puppies. Hey, sorry, Robert. I know what that's like coming from. I'm allergic to cats. So. Okay, awesome. I hope your pets have been keeping you company, especially just during this time. But that's just a little something that I like to do to help get us warmed up. Can't take the credit for that. Shout out to the author of Creative Sandbox, a fellow business colleague who helps people put on really awesome virtual presentations. Get our juices flowing and see who's in the room, because it's good to know who you're learning with. You got to know your friends at school. It's good to know them now as well. Nevertheless, let's keep moving forward. F. Scott Fitzgerald said, we don't write to become because we want to say something. You write because you have something to say. The author of The Great Gatsby said, you don't write because you want to say something. You write because you have something to say. This is a reflective question for you as we begin to engage in this learning. What is the something that you have to say? What's the something that you have to say? If you want to share it, please, by all means. Free learning space, you can leave it in the chat, but it's also just something for you to think about. What's the something that you have to say? That will often drive you as you continue to work on whatever piece of writing you want to get out into the world. Okay, marketing info. What's the something you have to say? And even think deeper, what are you marketing? Sales tips for women. What's the something you have to say? Always keep that in the back of your mind as you are thinking about writing. 2 goals today. 1, equip you with the steps to take your business message and put it into print. And then secondly, we're going to walk through defining our writing goals and how can you create an outline and how to actually self-publish. There are traditional publishers that many of you are probably acquainted with, Penguin and many different publishing houses, but this is all coming from the vein and the lens of self-publishing, which is more of a DIY, do-it-yourself method and process for getting your work out there. You may be wondering, well, what do you know about this? So I'm going to share a little bit of my informal journey, a little bit of my writing journey. In the beginning, when I was a little person, I really wrote to express myself. I had a diary as a child and still keep a journal to this day as an adult. As an adult, I started writing creatively and of course for everyday living, like we all do, right? But the creative piece a few years ago started and involved as a means for emotional expression. It was really a way to get emotions out, really cathartic, really therapeutic, and really just had a lot of healing properties for me. Things I couldn't necessarily verbally say. I was able to write them down. I had no clue that this was going to evolve into books and many different things and many different doors that it's open. I was then asked to co-author a chapter in a book based on one of the creative writings that I did. And from there, the rest is history. I've been fortunate to publish 5 books, self-published 5 books, and been a part of 2 co-authored books. And of course, I've helped clients get their works out into the world, from blogs to books for their businesses that's helping with their business growth. One client is doing something really awesome with a magazine, and he started this whole movement. And there have been other books and works as well. So again, I would love to know a little bit about your writing journey. Let me know here who is an aspiring writer and who is established. Who's aspiring? When I say aspiring, like you published a book, or you want to publish a book, you want to publish and contribute to a published work. And established, you have already done that. You've gotten something out, even if it was an article, if it was an actual book, even if it was a blog post. Okay, it was an aspiring writers. Blog posts do count. It is putting something out there. Lots of blogs, awesome. They do count. And we'll get to some of the legal stuff, but I'll give you this now. There's even a way that you can copyright blog posts. It wasn't a thing a few years ago, but it is now. So that counts. That counts. If you have to CYA it, it counts. So I see we have some aspiring, and of course, you can continue to leave your responses in the chat. But even if you're established, sometimes you still need a refresher. It's like continuing it. Sometimes I notice there's some things that hinder people in their writing, in their wanting to self-publish. And so let's take a few minutes to just debunk a couple of myths, right? Couple of myths that are out there, sometimes some beliefs that we have internally, sometimes some things that we see externally that are just not true. One, you don't have to be super visible to start. You don't have to have a mega platform. You don't have to have a whole bunch of followers. You don't have to have, you know, a million views on TikTok to start writing. But once you start writing, you need to have your writing visible. You don't want it packaged up and bottled up somewhere. Somebody somewhere needs that. And I love what Mariska wrote. I want to elevate my voice online. That's good. Publish short and long pieces. That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's just debunk that first myth. Second thing, you don't have to do it like everybody else. But there are some standards. There are some industry standards that are good practices to follow by, like they're best practices in every industry, but you don't have to do it like everybody else. And then three, you don't have to wait any longer. If your message is complete, then release it. You may get several writing ideas when you start to commit to your first idea. You're like, okay, I want to do writing on sales tips for women. Well, you may start to think about, what about sales tips for people who are allies of certain groups? What about sales tips for different personality types, right? You may start to get ideas while you're sitting there and doing your writing. It's okay to get those ideas and don't feel like you need to cram it all in one piece of work. But make sure that if your writing is flowing, you want to capture that. You certainly want to capture that. You definitely want to capture that. So I'm going to ask you a question. Are there any other beliefs that you have had about writing and self-publishing that perhaps you're wondering, is it true or not? Is it valid or not? Are there any other beliefs? And if not, that's good. You're ready to go. But there's no wrong answer when it comes to a myth. It's just what it is. All right. So some of the current realities of the self-publishing industry are as such. Know that COVID did have an impact on every industry, on every mountain we can think of. Know that it had that. But when it comes to self-publishing, something different happened. There was a hit that, of course, some printers took at a certain point of the pandemic. And then there was a wave and a surge because, okay, now everybody's home, right? What are people doing? Shopping, online. So where some people may have experienced a loss at some point in time, some things are picking back up and others experience a great hike in uptick in sales, just simply because of online shopping. Some of the trends I'm going to share with you are a little bit before the pandemic, but they're still relevant. Between 2017 and 2018, there was a 40% increase in self-publishing in the US. So if you want to think, you know, a little bit wide in scope in terms of time, over the past 10 years, there's been a huge shift in people writing and people being brave and having courage and putting their stuff out there. Between 2013 and 2018, print and ebooks were 1.19 million one year. Next year, jumped up to 1.68 million. In that short span of time, there was that hike. And then we come to a point where now self-published books now account for 30 to 40% of ebook sales. So again, that's reflective of people saying, hey, I have something to say. I want to help share certain things with certain people. I want to help elevate, you know, my voice and the voices of others. I want to get more information out. I want to help my business grow. And they're doing it and they're putting out there. And I'm glad you are too. Again, two goals. If we equip you with the steps to take your business message and put it into print, and then secondly, help you define those goals, create an outline, and self-publish. If there's anything else that you want to learn, you want to know, a question that you have, please capture it. You can leave it in the chat. We may not address it immediately, but there is time at the end for a question and answer, and we'll get to it then. Again, I'll say that again. If you have any question, feel free, put in the chat. If we don't answer it directly, then we'll get to it at the end. So let's keep it moving and going. So how can publishing and self-publishing and specifically help you with your business growth? There are a couple of things that it can do. One, it can help you expand your reach, right? Wider reach. It can help build credibility for your business. It can help you distribute your knowledge and share your expertise. You can also showcase new products, services, trends, insights. We see a lot of those things often in reports and white papers. It can also, of course, help you with increased revenues, right? And I love the fact that it is a very easy way for someone to access your business services. Low barrier to entry, right? They can access your business services. And so oftentimes, if you're one who's getting new information all the time, new ways to show people how to market things, new ways to show people how to sell things, you can stay current, but you can also archive that information that you had previously. You can put it in the book. So types of writing besides books that are definitely worth mentioning are book series. We've talked about co-author books. We've discussed blogs. There are ebooks, white papers, magazines, journals. Is there anything else that comes to mind that you may be considering writing that hasn't been mentioned? If so, can, of course, leave it in the chat and let us know. Is there anything else that you may think about that you have or have thought about that can contribute to your business growth? Just something to think about, different ways to get things out there. So let's get into the good. Step one, setting the stage by setting goals. Setting the stage by setting goals. You write something down, you're more likely to get it done. So here's the first step. First part of step one is determining what type of book you're writing, okay? Is it a novel? You could write a novel around marketing. Or is it self-help? Is it sales tips? Is it marketing tips? Is it cookbook? Those different things. And I share these with you so that you can understand just how broadly you can apply some of the principles that you'll get. So just what type of book you're writing. Why do you want to write it? Again, remember what F. Fitzgerald said, Scott said. You're writing to say something. You have something to say. So why do you want to write it? Beyond just tips for a particular demographic, what is it about that demographic that needs to be heard or said? What is it about your voice that you want to convey? What is it that you have to say? So remember, keep that in the back of your mind. That'll keep you focused when you get into certain places in your writing journey. Who are you writing for? Who are you writing for? Next thing you want to consider, what are 3 things you want readers to gain from reading your work? And these 3 things oftentimes pop up and show up even after you're done. Because again, it helps you focus on who the book is actually for. What are 3 things you want them to gain from reading that particular body of work? What do you want them to know how to do better? What do you want them to be able to see? Next thing with step 1, when do you want to release this work? You want to begin with the end in mind, because beginning the end in mind is what's going to keep you on track. I'm not a proponent of hasty work or rush work. I do think there's a difference between urgency and haste, but also sometimes that people have shelved things for so long, you have it bottled up inside of you. And it's good enough. It's good enough to share and present and package to the world. So if you give yourself that timeline and give yourself a due date, it'll help get that out. It'll help get it out. So again, begin with the end in mind. When do you want to release it? Is it for Christmas? Is it a year from now? Is it next week? Is it next month? Just think about those things. And then we'll get to a little bit of this later on, but as I mentioned before, you need to consider how you will self-publish. There are 3 primary ways that I'm going to share, but you want to think about how you're going to self-publish. So we have wonderful services like Amazon KDP. Barnes and Nobles has now opened the door where they provide self-publishing services. And then there are platforms like Lulu Press and Ingram Spark that can help as well. You can also source your local printer, but you need to think about how you will self-publish. That's key. That's key. Okay. And we'll get to that a little deeper later on. So all of that is step 1. Once you start setting those things, you're ready to go and you're ready to move forward. They may seem minute, they may seem a little bit elementary, but they're a little bit more important than people think. Okay? A little bit more important than you think. It helps frame and focus you. Step 2, creating your content. Meet a lot of people. I want to write a book, Ash. I want to write a book. There's a message in me. There's something I need to get out. First thing I'd ask them, where's the book? Where's the writing? You have to start writing. Just write. Just start writing. Something you do want to be mindful of as you're writing is keep your goals in mind. So everything is step 1. Keep that in mind, but also allow yourself the freedom to just write, to just let your writing flow. So we want to make sure that you are finding your writing rhythm. You're finding your writing rhythm. You're finding your writing cadence. And how do you do that? Think about when anything good that you produce comes out. Where are you? You know, is it a particular environment? Where's your headspace? Do you have your favorite drink? Do you have a cup of coffee, a cup of tea? You have water. Where are you? What is that environment like? You want to be very intentional about getting into your writing rhythm. Secondly, you want to consider your schedule. Just mentioned beginning with the end in mind, but also you want to create a timeline. You want to create a timeline. So here's the end. Let's say Christmas, okay? And now I have to reverse engineer and create a timeline with milestones, okay? I'm gonna have my complete manuscript or first rough draft done by the end of August, right? And then I'll go through all that revision and the following steps that we'll get to from August all the way up to October or November. You want to find your writing rhythm. The hardest part, I'm going to say the hardest part, but the most important part is the actual text itself. The actual text itself and getting that out. You want to make sure that you do that. Timing is everything. Begin with the end in mind and create that timeline. Timing is everything. You know when certain things, especially concerning the type of writing that you're doing, you know when certain things should be released. So you want to consider that as well. Like, oh, this will be, this is this month. I can release this to the public or to whatever body that you want to sell that particular writing to during this particular month that perhaps celebrates this, or during, this particular time when, a lot of people will be thinking about certain things. Like if you're writing a book about, let's say, holidays like Christmas or, any particular holiday, then what would happen is it would be ideal to sell a book about Christmas either a little bit before or around the holidays, right? So just some things to think about. And then finally, tools you can use. Consider an outline that can later serve as your table of contents, but also know that your table of contents can serve as an outline. And so one of the things that you can do, and this helps people a lot and has helped some of my clients, is when they're thinking about the book that they want to write, think about all the topics that they have in mind and all the messages that they want to convey. And so they just write everything down. That then serves as your table of contents, but also serves as the outline. You can always go back and rearrange topics. You can rearrange content. But if you at least start somewhere with getting your outline down, getting all those messages down, getting all of the key points down that you want to convey in your book, that can serve as your outline and a guide to help you write. Something someone else has also done is taking those topics, taking the table of contents, and use that kind of as their timeline to actually get the content out. So every week, they worked on a chapter per week. It may be a chapter per month. It may be a chapter per day. It just depends on the length of the book. But just some little things that you can do to help you, again, produce that content. Because sometimes you may hear people that say, well, I don't want to have writer's block, or I get writer's block. And no, that's not just for narrative books and other creative books that are not necessarily nonfiction books like we're talking about here, but that can happen for people who write nonfiction and technical writing as well, right? You're like, okay, I need some more words. I need a creative flow. How should I say this? So in order to help you do that and break through that sort of block, consider using an outline of some sort. And then also you can consider using a framework for your chapters. I don't have too much time to dig too deep into this, but frameworks simply are just a way of outlining your content in a way that is consistent throughout the book. And you probably have seen this without knowing that it was called that. If you've ever read any book and you've seen perhaps they started off with a quote, or they started off with a story, and then it went into sharing the information, and then it went into have perhaps some questions or some application. That is a framework. And the framework they probably followed was anecdote, information, application. Sometimes people start off with asking a question on all their chapters, and then the whole chapter is just a story, right? And then at the end, they have some sort of application or a nugget or a takeaway. That's the framework for that particular chapter. So you want to consider those things and adopting a framework. You can create a framework. I just shared 2 with you, but you can create something that works for you. And it doesn't have to be the same throughout the text, but what it does do is it sets up a level of consistency, which sometimes is easier for the reader. But if you want to be creative, hey, be creative. I've seen multiple frameworks used in one book as well, but 9 times out of 10, they tend to have a similar framework for each chapter. Is that clear? Okay. All right, so you've gotten the biggest part done, the most labor-intensive part done. And so now it's time for step 3. Step 3, you want to refine your content. So when you're thinking about refining your content, let's imagine your manuscript is done, it's complete, you've written it, you've gotten your first draft. You either sit with it for a little while, or you want to step away and then embrace it again. Sometimes you need to step back, clear your mind, get your headspace clear, get your eyes clear. We have to do that from technology as well. And take a breather and then come back to that piece of writing. So even if that stepping away has been for years, right? Just step away for a little while. It could be a few hours. It could be a day or 2, and then come back to that particular writing. But when we're thinking about refining content, that's where revising and editing comes to play. That's where revising and editing. And to break these 2 down, again, I'm going to take you back to elementary school and certain things that we learned then that are extremely important now, right? Revising, you want to make it better. How does it sound? What does the sentence structure look like? And then editing, we want to polish it. Where do I need to capitalize? Where do my subjects and verbs need to agree? Where do punctuation corrections need to take place? And what about, and spelling errors? All of those things are the little technical changes that encompass editing, revising and editing, refining your work. Okay. Crucial to this is getting another set of eyes. Another set of eyes. You want a second or even a third set of eyes on it. There are many platforms that can help with the revision and editing piece, and many people who have services that can help with these as well. Grammarly is one that many people use. And then there's some things even embedded within our word processors, like Word, or I'm not so much familiar with Pages, if you have a Mac product, with their editing and revision functionalities. But in Word, there's some functionality to help you revise and edit your documents, just the things that you use day to day. So consider those. And of course, you can hire an editor. You can get someone who has a great command of the English language or whatever language that you're going to be writing in, because I don't want to assume that your writing will only be in English, but you want to make sure that you're tapping into resources who have that level of expertise and they can help you refine it. Sometimes people can see things that we can't see, right? They can see things we can't see, and we want to have that polished version. So quick activity to get your juices flowing. What needs to be R&E'd in this particular sentence? What needs to be revised and edited? If you look at the first sentence, you'll see that who doesn't sell polka dotted paint? And then the second one, same thing, who doesn't sell polka dotted paint? But therein lies the difference between a couple of things. First, someone may think you're talking about Dr. Seuss here. And no, you're talking about a particular person. Cell here, this is a cell that has to do with our bodies, where this is cell that you all help people with. And then the punctuation is off. This is an exclamation, conveys excitement, sometimes screaming in certain places, but question mark, which is asking something. Same, different words, same word, different sound, different spelling, different meanings, and they convey different things. So you want to make sure that that is taken care of. Step 4, we're on prep for production. Prep for production. And look here, this is where the rubber meets the road. You've done the hard part, you've gotten the book out, you're getting it refined. The prep for production is a process. It is a complete process. Sometimes there are teams that help with this entire process. But these are 6 main key areas. There will be a few others, but these are 6 key areas that you need to consider when it's time to produce. You're getting ready to package this writing, getting ready to present it to the world. And so one of the first things you need to consider is your cover. We're probably often taught to not judge people, right, by their looks, but people do judge books by their covers. They judge books by their covers, is what appeals to a person. And so you want to make sure your cover is good. You want to make sure that it is appealing to the ideal person that you want to pick it up or click add to Amazon cart. You will always have outliers. I'm often pleasantly surprised that different people will say, oh, I got your book and I read it. And I love it, but they were not necessarily my ideal person that I had in mind to get that particular book. So that will happen, and that's a very good thing. But you want to make sure you're considering your audience, right? What is it that's going to appeal to them? One of the things that you can do is take a trip to Barnes and Nobles, or you can go on Amazon and start to search some books in that particular genre, some that have a similar topic or theme, and then see what the covers look like there. What do you notice that's the same? And then what do you notice that is perhaps different? But also, how can you stand out? How can you stand out? Okay, let's see, we have some questions. So some of the things you want to think about for your cover, you can hire a graphic editor, but you can also DIY it on things like Canva, Adobe, Photoshop. If you just know someone who's really just does a really incredible job at designing things, you can hire them to get those things done as well. I have seen paintings turn into book covers, so you can get creative with it. Sometimes there's just photography that can also serve as a book cover. But again, you just want it to be something, you want it to be appealing to your audience. Are there proofreading services available? What's the recommendation for people who would like a second set of eyes on the writing? There's several things. Again, I mentioned Grammarly that can serve as one of the DIY do-it-yourself modes for proofreading. You can hire proofreaders. You can hire editors. You can go to Fiverr. You can reach out to us. We can help with that as well. But there are different proofreading. Then there are different entities that proofread as well. There's another app called Editor. There's an app that's called Editor. And so always, always, always get somebody else to look at it. Even if you decide to go with something like Grammarly or the Editor app, I do suggest and recommend another human being putting their eyes on it. You want to do that. You can do both in. It doesn't have to be either or, but you can do both in. Okay, thank you for asking that question. Something else to consider that's a part of this process is the front and the back matter. That is all of the goods that you see before you get to the meat of the book, and all the stuff that you see after you get to the meat of a book. All the things that you see. So things from your title page, like here you see the Odyssey, things like the title page, your copyright page, Some acknowledgements are sometimes in the front matter, but normally I've seen this recent trend of the acknowledgement shifting to the back matter, where your references may be in about the author. All of that stuff is so important because a lot of it, especially in the front matter, contains data that you need to have in your book, from your copywriting information to where it was published, to the city, the state, to your ISBNs, which is like your book's social security number. It needs to have all of that information, your Library of Congress number, all of those things, all of that goes into the front matter. And then of course, again, the back matter, your acknowledgements, your indices, any references, especially if you are citing someone else's work, please, 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 please include and give credit where credit is due. Give credit where credit is due, which leads us into the legal stuff, which is see why you cover your assets. You want to give credit where credit is due. You want to make sure you're sourcing everyone. You want to get a copyright. And for those who write blog posts, you can even get that copywritten. You simply go to copyright.gov, and there's a list of everything that you'll need. And they'll just walk you through everything that you need to be able to submit your copyright as well. But you want to make sure you take care of that legal stuff and just cover yourself. Some people have trademarked certain titles. So copywriting and trademarking is different. I'm not going to get into too much of the legalities of that, but if there's a certain name that you want to make sure that name is protected. Some people have trademarked that, okay? 9 times out of 10 for business or purposes. There's also another thing that will help establish credibility, but also just allows your book to get cataloged at the Library of Congress in DC, and that's just simply getting a pre-assigned control number. And so if you decide to do that, your book will just be cataloged in the Library of Congress. You'll have to submit a copy to them and mail it to them. But, you know, it's one of those things that it'll move you up a notch a little bit in the publishing world. It's just good to have something on record. It's good for documentation. It's good for preservation if you want to have your work on record in that particular space. Next thing, you want to think about formatting. Formatting is what makes it all pretty and attractive on the inside. So if you ever looked at a book and you like the style of it, from the spacing to double space, also perhaps you might see some cursive lettering, or you may see where there's some block quotes in different places in the book. All of that was due to formatting. Okay, that matters. Some people, probably wonder how do people take your manuscript and it goes to the formatter and they do what they do. And then finally, the printing. You can either use one of the POD services, as I mentioned, the print on demand, like Amazon KDP, that allows you to order author copies. Lulu Press, I think, will do that for you as well, Barnes and Nobles as well. But you can also source your local printer. There's some small businesses that are very great at that. Alpha Graphics is one of those, helping people get their books and different things out. So step 5, getting it out there. Getting it out there, producing and printing, part of the final steps. And I'm mentioning this multiple times for more than one reason. You can use a POD service, like again, Amazon KDP. You can start your own publishing company, which would entail you sourcing a printer, or you can do a combination of both. Okay, I have done this right here, the combination of both. I've had a client who has started their own publishing company as well, a couple of friends who have their own publishing companies. And then there's another client and another friend, they just use the POD service. They just use Amazon. Of course, each has its own nuance. Each has its own cost and expense, and each has its own pros and cons. One of the things when you want to think about, let's say you don't want it's not a hassle, but you don't want the extra work of starting a publishing company of your own, and you want to go with something like Amazon KDP or Barnes and Nobles, you can actually use a lot of the perks that come with that, like having an Amazon ISBN. The caveat to that, though, is if you choose to solely use Amazon for distributing your book, you're not able to put it in, it has their ISBN attached to it. You're not going to be able to sell your book on other platforms like Barnes and Nobles or Apple iBooks or different places. So that's just something to consider, how much control you want to have over the distribution of your piece of work, your writing. And the creative part about using a combination of both, it depends on how convenient you want something to be. And let me go back and say this disclaimer. Just because you use Amazon services does not mean you cannot, that you have to be obligated to selling here. You can still use their services and have your own ISBN. So I don't want it to seem like, oh, if you go on their platform, you can't have it anywhere else. You can still use their services, but you can use your own ISBN as well to get your books out there. And sometimes the combination comes in where you want to be creative. You're welcome. Hey, Terrence, good to see you. We get a lot deeper into this in the ebook I have called Just Write. And of course, a one-on-one clients, we get a lot deeper into what your options are and how to actually get that out there. Terrence is an awesome business colleague also. Terrence, thanks for showing up. I hope you learned something well. Distribution and marketing. Okay, go hand in hand again. Distribution, making it accessible to all of those people like Amazon, through Amazon KDP, Barnes and Nobles, Apple iBooks, ACX, if you want someone to get an audiobook. You can also distribute very creatively and locally, libraries, your local bookstores. If someone has a shop perhaps, or a business that has a shop, you could ask them, hey, can I put a couple of my books here and sell them here? And work out some type of revenue share. Your website and your landing page and your social media are perhaps some of the largest distribution channels. And of course, direct sales at live events. And then what's anything, without marketing? How do we make it appealing to the customer? This graphic says, pre-order my first book. I'll love you forever and I'll give you cake. Okay, social media, big part, big part of books. Another way to market, and I'm gonna just share what I have from experience, but I'd love to hear from you all, some other ways that perhaps authors and aspiring authors can market their content and their books is hosting live or virtual events, again, using social media, speaking, being podcast guests, speaking at conferences, summits, and contributing to blogs or publications. One thing I do share with people is that when you write a book, when you put writing out there that is published, you automatically become a speaker. You automatically become a speaker. And they go hand in hand because people are going to want to talk about the content. They're going to want to learn a little bit more. And oftentimes there are things that were captured in a writing that you can expound on and you can expand on. And so just be prepared for that. You'll probably have to speak quite a bit. So here's your call to action. And then we'll get into question and answer. I want you to consider one piece of writing that you have. And what can you work on the next 90 days? It may be an idea you have, something that you're starting. It may be something that's already in progress. Or maybe something that you need to finish. But get that piece of writing, get it back in front of you. You may not have even looked at it for months. Get it back in front of you and start working on it again. Apply a strategy or two and start working on it again. Even if it's scheduling, okay, I'm going to schedule some intentional time every day or every week to get in my writing flow and to get this thing finished. Or if it's as simple as I'm going to give myself that due date. Get that writing back in front of you and commit to working on something over the next 90 days. And you'll see the needle move on the progress and the production of that piece of work. If you need support, we have ebooks. I'll leave a link in the chat. $5 called Just Write. It breaks down a little bit further all of the 5 steps and lays out what I shared with some links to the actual sites and entities that'll help you package everything. And then we also have packages that are 2 main packages that provide one-to-one coaching and support for authors who are ready to get that book out. And those packages are ideal for people. You have everything's written. They're ideal for that. So that didn't mean if you don't fall in that that's a no. But if you have everything written and you're just ready to get your baby out there, you're ready to get it out. You may even have had it edited, but you don't know the next step. You may need some additional support. So we have packages for that. And then there are a la carte services as well. So
Ashley,
again, yes.
yeah, because we're about 8 minutes. I just want to
Yeah.
be sure we give the audience some time. I know they haven't been asking too many questions, probably because they've been taking heavy notes, but we know that the audience are probably heavily on the marketer side. And one thing that you and I had talked about is that as marketers, we're always producing a lot of content, content for our blogs and posts and Instagrams. I mean, that's all we do every day, all day is produce content. And so can you talk a little bit about maybe what's a good way, like, for example, can people just take sort of a collection of those blog posts and sort of put them together and start thinking about how they can all relate to each other? What's a good way for marketers to kind of leverage what they're doing on a daily basis?
Right, what they already have. You can take all of that content. I mean, even if, let's say you wanted to, you can take the blogs and actually create a book. You can literally take your blog posts and write a book from those. Again, you may have to play around with the thematics and look at the messaging and make sure that, you know, everything is flowing properly in your table of contents. You can take your blog posts, you can write a book, you can take your blog posts and perhaps use content from there to create a white paper.
Right. That's always a great first step, right?
Yes. So if there's content that you have that you want to repurpose, by all means do. If you have articles that you've written for, let's say, companies or clients, you can use that as leverage to gain new companies or clients. You know, of course, granted, you have their permission, but there are a couple of creative ways you can repurpose your blog content. One that comes to mind, taking all those blog posts that have a particular theme and creating a book from there. Don't be intimidated by size. Don't think that your book has to have like 200, 300 pages. You know, there are really good books that have 100 pages. There are really good books that have 50 pages. As long as you're getting those things out there.
Another thing I was thinking of, account managers in marketing in particular, they work with clients and they're always developing strategy decks, right? Recommendations, which again is another form of content, but in like a how-to. And how-to books are very popular. Yes. And those strategy decks could be case studies. Of course, you have to change the name and the product and all that good stuff, but really interesting sort of case studies to sort of leverage that kind of work. That's really good that you brought that up. Slide decks, strategy decks, all of those things are very helpful. Ways that you can, again, boost those sales, get that credibility up. Also share information. You know, there's a lot of information that's always on people's minds, and you're like, how do I convey this to somebody, or how do I avoid having to repeat? For people who don't always want to repeat themselves, if you feel like you're ready to talk or share something new, you can refer people to, hey, you know, I have this book, or I have this book series, or I have this ebook series, and you can refer them to that. No, in fact, Adrienne, one of our board members, was just saying that she does a lot of blog posts, and I just like the idea of knowing that blog that you're writing, that you have to get put out there for your audience, can have a larger purpose, I think is really motivating.
Yes. Yeah, do you see that, Adrienne? You've got this. You've got it. Make an appointment with yourself.
Yeah.
Just treat it like a meeting. And even if nothing comes to you that day, once you start getting yourself acclimated to sitting down and writing, it'll just flow easier and easier and easier.
Another one my dad had was, I just know some of the background of some of the people on our meeting, is if you're starting a new job, journal that experience. Because boy, the first 90 days on a new job is, has lots of highs and lows, which is absolutely of value to a lot of people out there. So that's, I guess my thinking is everything we're doing on a daily basis is shareable, right? Our experiences. They're sort of powerful experiences that we can turn into some kind of, published piece. I'll pause for a second along with you, Ashley, and just put it out there to the audience to see if there's anyone else that wants to share a question, we can take you off mute. We've got just a couple of minutes left if anyone has a thought. No, a little bit of a quiet group today, Ashley.
They are. Any takeaways? I would love to see takeaways. What's the one thing that you're going to do? We know Adrienne is going to finish her blog.
What 3 things do you want readers to gain from reading the body of work? I like that too. What?
I like just do it. You know, don't wait for perfection, just do it and not wait, you know, because that's one thing I think the perfectionist and a lot of people stops them from doing something is because they just want it to be so perfect. When in reality, it's already good enough.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, imperfection, paralysis. Get it as polished as you can, and you know, done. You've gotten it to that level. Done is just better than perfect. Get it as close as you can. And then you got to put it out there.
Go for it.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's see. I think we get started. Thank you, Christine, for chiming in. And so I'm going to start. That's right. There's more resources. There are a lot of resources. There are a lot of resources, tons of them. And let me make this for you all as well. And if you have struggled with procrastination because of writing, I do have a free copy of my ebook, Reverse Procrastination, on my website. That you can, so if nothing else is a challenge besides just getting started procrastinating, go grab that ebook because that might help you. It's a few pages of some things that you can actually put in place that'll
human nature, Ashley. Got Jazz Fest. Of course we're gonna procrastinate.
Well, you make time for fun stuff. I'm all for time for fun stuff. That sometimes what inspires people to write, you know.
Having a deadline is the best way to get motivated. Well, thank you so much. I just want to thank everyone that is online for joining us today. I know this was very useful for me, and Ashley, I'm just so pleased that you were here and shared your expertise with us. Sharik, thank you for introducing us to Ashley. And I can't wait to hear what everyone does with this fantastic knowledge that was discussed today. So thanks, everyone, and I hope that we'll see you at the next AMA NOLA event coming up very shortly. I think it was May 11th is our next marketing meetup, and then May 18th for the next speaker event. So have a great afternoon. Hopefully I'll see you at Jazz Fest. Ashley, let's talk again once you're back in town.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Everyone. Have a good
Bye.
afternoon.
Have a good day.